Hi, Seagull class. Here's our read-aloud book, The Miraculous Adventures of Edward Tulane by Kate DiCamillo. And here is chapter 27. We're getting to the end of the book now. Seasons passed. Fall and winter and spring and summer. Leaves blew in through the open door of Lucius Clark's shop. And rain and the green, outrageous, hopeful light of spring. People came and went, grandmothers and doll collectors, and little girls with their mothers. Edward Tulane waited. The seasons turned into years. Edward Tulane waited. He repeated the old doll's words over and over until they were a smooth groove of hope in his brain. Someone will come for you. And the old doll was right. Someone did come. It was springtime. It was raining. There were dogwood blossoms on the floor of Lucius Clark's shop. She was a small girl, maybe 5 years old, and while her mother struggled to close a blue umbrella, the little girl walked around the store, stopping and staring solemnly at each doll and then moving on. When she came to Edward, she stood in front of him for what seemed like a long time. She looked at him and he looked back at her. "Someone will come," Edward said. "Someone will come for me." The little girl smiled, and then she stood on her tiptoes and took Edward off the shelf. She cradled him in her arms. She held him in the same ferocious, tender way that Sarah Ruth had held him. "Oh," thought Edward, "I remember this." "Madam," said Lucius Clark, "could you please attend to your daughter? She is holding a very fragile, most precious, quite expensive doll." "Maggie," said the woman. She looked up from the still open umbrella. "What have you got?" "A rabbit," said Maggie. "A what?" said the mother. "A rabbit," said Maggie again. "I want him." "Remember, we're not buying anything today. We're looking only," said the woman. "Madam," said Lucius Clark, "please." The woman came over and stood next to Maggie. She looked down at Edward. The rabbit felt dizzy. He wondered for a minute if his head had cracked open again, if he was dreaming. "Look, Mama," said Maggie. "Look at him." "I see him," said the woman. She dropped the umbrella. She put her hand on the locket that hung around her neck. And Edward saw that it was not a locket at all. It was a watch, a pocket watch. It was his watch. "Edward?" said Abilene. "Yes," said Edward. "Edward," she said again, certain this time. "Yes," said Edward. "Yes, yes, yes. It's me." Well, that's the end of the book. Oh, there's questions to consider in the back. In the doll store, Edward prided himself on not hoping, on not allowing his heart to lift inside of him. He prided himself on keeping his heart silent, immobile, and closed tight. I am done with hope, thought Edward Tulane. Why does Edward feel this way? Do you think this is the right decision? Why do you think he feels that way? That he is done with hope. But then we see that all that time he was waiting was worth it because of who got him in the end. Abilene, who is now a grown-up, and her daughter Maggie. Next, I'll start reading some short stories from a special book that I just ordered that I'm so excited to share with you. But first, let's think about this book. Maybe you can write the next chapter. You can imagine if the book continued. What would happen? Do you think that Abilene would buy Edward? Would he go home with her? Would he be Maggie's doll or Abilene's doll? How would he be treated? I would love to hear the last chapter that you write of this miraculous journey of Edward Tulane.